Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're making some fridge magnets. Now guys, I just want to come on here real quick and give you a little bit of a warning that today's show does include footage of the laser in operation, so flashing lights, etc. If you are somebody who is affected by that sort of thing, please do whatever you have to do to protect yourself. So there you go guys, just stay safe. Well, the plan for today's project is to use a combination of both the laser engraver and the scroll saw to come up with some fridge magnets. Now, please don't allow this to discourage you. If you don't have a laser engraver, it's no problem. This is very easily converted into a scroll saw project, and as well, it's very easily done by doing wood burning instead of using the laser. I'm only using the laser because I can. So what we're going to do first is, you know what, let's have a look at the magnets that I like to use for these. So one of my biggest pet peeves with fridge magnets is that they are never ever strong enough for what I like to attach to the fridge. If it's a piece of artwork, it slides down. So for that reason, I use these in my fridge magnets. And these are, of course, rare earth magnets, but they are sold as 10 millimeters wide by 5 millimeters thick by 60 millimeters long. And they are classified as 33-pound magnets. Now, these things are strong and they do a great job of attaching your artwork to your fridge. However, I don't like to place them on the outside of the wood. So what we're going to do is we are going to encase this in wood. Well, for this project, I've made a file up on Lightburn. So we will just open this first, and we can see the file here. Now, this is just the ones that I'm doing, guys. You can do basically anything that you like. But I just want to draw your attention here to this section. And if we look here, these dotted lines that are going around, both the center one and the outside one, this represents both our wooden blank and our magnet position right in the middle. So these values or these measurements are absolute. So this measure, or this center line or center hole here, this measures just a little bit larger than the magnet, and my outside perimeter is 100 millimeters wide by 60 millimeters tall. Now I say millimeters, which is rather strange to hear on this show, but that is the way that Lightburn works. It works all in millimeters. And even though I prefer imperial, believe it or not, Canada is a fully metric country. I'm just one of the rebels that's still holding on. But anyway, what we want to do is this piece right here, our blank with our magnet cutout. I need to make, for each magnet, I need to make 2 of these blanks, and they will get laminated together. I will also need 2 blanks of this same size, this 60 by 100. I will need 2 of those per magnet that do not have the center hole. And for that reason, I have made it so that every single layer here is completely separate from everything else. In other words, I can turn them on and off in the output section over here as I wish. So if I want to cut these pieces without this center hole, well, I can do that just by shutting off the output to it. And I'll just show you that here. So there you go. I can just shut the output on and off, toggle that, and it will either cut or not cut the magnets. And it will either cut or not cut the parameters around our blanks. So with that being said now, what I need to do is get my blanks cut. Every magnet, 2 of the inside pieces that have the cutouts and 2 of the outside pieces that have no cutouts. So before you start any engraving or any cutting with the laser engraver, you always want to frame your project to make sure that it's within the parameters of where you have your wood set. It can really be disheartening if you don't check it and you have it all set up, you have this perfect piece of wood in there, and you hit engrave, and it engraves in the wrong spot. So just be careful that you do the framing and check to make sure that it's within the area that your wood is. And now that I'm happy with the framing, I can just click start and I can get my blanks cut out. And before long, you'll have your blanks. Now, I normally like to place my magnets right in the center of my fridge magnet. But in the case of one of my designs, this one here, you'll notice that it's off to the side. And the reason for that is that it interfered with the external shape that I wanted to cut of my magnet. So you want to be careful that when you're doing your design that you know exactly where your magnet is and exactly where your cuts are going to be. And that's the whole purpose of having them there on light burn, so that you can turn them on or off, and that way you know that you're not going to accidentally laser into your magnet or you're going to cut it with your scroll saw or what have you. So I'm going to get all the blanks that I need cut for this particular project, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, and these are the last blanks that we need here. Now, I have this board clamped down with some laser cut clamps that I made for my honeycomb. And what I want to do is I'm carefully removing these blanks, but I am not removing this piece. We are going to leave this exactly where it is for now, and I'll explain that a little bit later. For now, let's get these blanks prepared for the next step. Well, the next step that we want to do is we want to glue these pieces together. So we will have a base plate, then 2 magnet sections. The reason for that is this is 3mm ply. It's actually about 2 3/4 millimeter. But with the 5mm magnets, we need at least 2 to house the magnets. And then our top piece. For our one magnet that the magnet is off center, we may want to mark this on the back and mark which side the magnet is on, just so that we don't mess it up when it comes to the laser engraving or cutting. So let me show you how we're going to glue these together. So we'll just set our bottom piece there. This will be the back of the magnet. We'll apply some glue to our magnet section, making sure we spread it all the way to the edges. You don't need a lot of glue here. There we go. And then we'll just sit this in place, lining up the edges, and just press it together for now. We can now do the same thing with another magnet section, except on this one, we're going to apply the glue on both sides of our piece of wood. And again, this doesn't have to be pretty. It's not something that will ever show. So if you have some squeeze out or what have you, don't worry about it. No one's ever going to see the squeeze out. In fact, it'll be either inside the magnet or it will be cut off. So don't worry too much about it. That's one of the joys of this project. Just down and dirty. All right, so there we go. We can now line this up with our other piece. And now before we put the top on, quickly before our glue starts to set up, we're going to take one of our magnets, sit it in that space, just like that. And then we're going to lie our top right there. All right, so we will clamp this up, put it aside, and let it completely dry. You want to do that for every one of your blanks that you're making a magnet for. Well, the glue is dry on our blanks. I've given them a light sanding just on the side that we're going to laser. And what I want to do is place them here back in their spots where I cut them out from. Now, I've paid attention to that top one to make sure, because I know that's the one with the magnet on the far side. I have made sure that it's where it's supposed to be. Now, you want to remember at this point now that we need to refocus our laser because it's actually focused for the material down here. So we're carefully going to just focus this in on the top of our glued up blanks. There we go. We're going to turn on the output of all of our projects, turn off the cutting output, and then we will frame this up and cut it. Well, engrave it in this case. Okay, and there we go. These are almost finished magnets. Now, truth be told, this outer line here is actually a cut line that we are going to do at the scroll saw, and that will be our next step. But something I want to point out, all of my preaching, all of my barking about check, 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 and then when this one went through, that cut line, which was just supposed to be a marking, I had it at the wrong settings, and this went crazy burning through. So it never actually cut it. I never expected it to. It was completely the wrong settings. But what I had to do was shrink that cutting or that engraving and draw a second line there that we will cut at the scroll saw. So with that being said, now let's head over to the scroll saw and we can finish these off. Well, I have installed a brand new number 3 blade here in the scroll saw, and what we're going to do now, we're going to start with this cutting board one. I've drilled this hole here in the end just to make it a little more perfect, I guess, so that I don't have to cut that on the scroll saw. But we're just going to cut around this perimeter line to finish this off and give it its final shape. So I'm going to cut out my other 2 magnets and then I'll show you the next step. And pretty much the last step here is just to clean it up a bit. Go around those edges, take all of those sharp corners off, break those corners. You're going to be handling these with your hands, so you don't want those sharp corners on there. So give your magnets a good sanding all over. If you have any excessive burning here, I see a little bit of charring on the outside of that O. Even though I used air assist, I did do a second pass because I wanted it a little deeper, a little darker. You can give this a light sanding over the top and you can clean that up really nicely. So you can clean this all up, get it ready to go. And then I think I'm going to apply a bit of a finish to these, and that will be it for this project, guys. And there you have it. Shop-made fridge magnets. Guys, this is a much shorter show than normal and a much simpler project than normal. However, this one opens itself up to every skill level across the board, regardless if you're a newbie or whether you have been doing woodworking for 50 years. This is an enjoyable project, and it's one that gives some really great results. And I don't think the results are gained just by the laser engraver. Now, of course, that does add an element of professionalism to the entire project, but there is nothing wrong with burning with a wood burner your images onto that magnet. What a great way to practice your pyrography. Guys, this thing opens up to all kinds of modifications. How about painting? How about just making plain blank magnets and then using acrylic paints and painting a scene on it, if painting is your thing? How about stamping some letters on there? How about engraving, as far as like using a Dremel tool and a burr bit to engrave something on it? Guys, there are so many options that you could do. If you have the laser engraver, it even opens up even more. How about wedding announcements, like a save the date fridge magnet, or as a little table favor at the wedding? How about party favors? How about party invitations? How about announcements, baby announcements, pregnancy announcements, engagement announcements? All of these things are possible for very little work and very little time. These magnets are a side project that I can just whip off at any point in time. It's so easy to do, and especially with the laser engraver, it kind of saves me having to use the scroll saw, which opens up the scroll saw to be able to use for other projects. Either way, guys, these are a great project, a great heavy-duty magnet that holds all of that artwork or your shopping list or whatever to your fridge without it sliding for a change. And honestly, just a great load of fun and a great way to spend a couple hours in the shop. Guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. This one's been, once again, a lot of fun. Like I said, a much more simple project, but it was one that was brought to my attention, and I was asked, could you please make these? And I said, sure, why not? And you know what? I'm really pleased with the way they turned out. I had a lot of fun designing both the light burn programs that engraved all that stuff on the front, and I had a good time sort of meddling around with it and figuring it out the best way to go about it. Either way, guys, I hope you liked it. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. You click the bell and then you're not going to miss the notifications of future episodes of the program. I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed the program. I hope you enjoyed the project and the content. I hope you're going to try this for yourself. I really do. And more importantly, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesdays.